welcome to class number 3. Is it sustainable? We have covered a lot. In class 2, we covered what am I offering and will it work? And we covered a lot there. Things like who is your target customer? What's your customer profile look like? What are the top 5 pains they're addressing? Your solutions to those pains? What does the competition look like? And your competitive advantage. And then we talked about break even and expenses and expenditures. We covered a lot. Today we're also going to cover a lot, but we're changing gears and we're switching hats. And we are going to cover is it sustainable? And we're going to slide number 2. So the purpose of the SET program, again, is to shift and accelerate the launch of your business using sustainable practices. Have a successful business and be a successful entrepreneur. That's the purpose of the course. And again, we're doing this very, very rapidly with you, but it's going to be iterative, and in class we're going to be helping you solidify your ideas and how you're going to integrate this into your business and so on. So that said, the next slide is sustainable entrepreneur. Again, we cover this on each of the three, all the classes, and we do this for a reason, to iterate and help you retain what it's going to take to be a successful and sustainable entrepreneur. So today we're talking about sustainability, which is in the bottom part of the ready bubble, if you will. The ready, set, and go. So ready is we're going into sustainability today. Starting in class 4, we're going to talk about marketing and financials, and then we're going to go into each marketing, financials, and strategies throughout the course, the remaining sessions of the course, and then integrating the go components towards the end of the course, which is building your team, your stakeholders, and then pitching. So that's how the course is designed, and this is what it takes to be a successful and sustainable entrepreneur. The next slide is what we're going to cover today, the objectives of is it sustainable. So the first one is to understand key issues of business sustainability. What does it mean to be sustainable, and how does that work? And in business, the traditional business model is broken, and how it's broken and what that means. Then we're going to review how to integrate sustainability into your business and outline a globally conscious business model for yourself. And then finally, we're going to embrace your business's social and environmental responsibilities for the maximum impact on profitability, and why these factors actually help you become more profitable as a business. So that said, let's now look at some key buzzwords. And what does it mean to be sustainable? What we're basically talking about here, let me introduce you to some basics around sustainability and what it means to be environmentally and socially oriented in business. And in class, we're going to be doing an exercise around this. But for now, know that this is what you're going to be understanding and learning. So some of the key buzzwords here. This is a very busy slide. Buzzword slide number 5. But this really warrants taking a minute or two understanding, because once you understand this, it's going to all come together very, very quickly and easily for you. Okay, so there's 3 major circles. The yellow circle is environmental, the blue is economic, and the, pink mauve color is social. So environmental, economic, and social. And where those 3 circles intersect is sustainability, where you integrate all 3 of those components into your business, creates a sustainable business in the middle, the sustainability piece. So let's look at if you were just an environmental company, then the box in the upper right-hand corner of the slide kicks in. So that would be energy efficiency companies, subsidies and incentives for using for the use of natural resources, is what that would include. So it'd be companies that focus on strictly environmental business impacts. If you were about economic and social, in other words, there's an overlap, but not all three, but it's not environmental, but it's just social and economic, then the bottom box would kick in. And that would be business ethics like fair trade and workers' rights and so on. So, where it's integrating social and economic into a business is the bottom section. And then the top left section is where it's social and environmental, where they come together. Not economic, but social and environmental. And those tend to be nonprofits, environmental justice, natural resources, and stewardship, and locally and globally, and so on. Globally and locally. So it would include, tend to include nonprofits and truly businesses that focus on uh, the maximum impact on society and the environment. Uh, so those are key buzzwords and where they overlap. All three of them is in the middle, where it also includes integrates environmental, social, and economic into it. Next is what makes, I'm going to go through a bunch of slides now. And this is all building a case for integrating sustainability into your business model. So this quote is from somebody who's pretty famous in the venture capital world. Um, his name is John Doerr, and he once made this quote about how green was essentially entrepreneurs are going to figure out the sustainability piece and come up with solutions to a clean environment and a society that works. And entrepreneurs are going to figure that out, and that's where we come in and help uh, you figure out how to build that into your business model, um, so that we can prove John Doerr right on this. What does it mean to be sustainable? You know, I get this question a lot. I used to teach this environmental entrepreneurship up at Columbia University here in New York City, and because of that, and also because I've been doing a fair amount of teaching to other entrepreneurs, people ask me, well, what does it mean to be sustainable? How can you maximize your sustainability as a business owner? And um, what what I say to them is what I'm going to say to you, which is um, it's basically just three components. It's making your best effort, doing the best you can, and taking responsibility for it is the second component. And then knowing the impact of your decisions on society, on the environment, and so on. So those three things: making a best effort, taking responsibility, and knowing the impact of it. It's like, how do you describe being a good parent? I don't know, like what, that you go and do things with your kid, you feed them well. Is that a good parent? Or is a good parent, well, you do all that plus you then go on massive trips with them, you buy them gifts all the time, whatever, it's like everybody has their own definition of it. So what this means is that how do you know when you're being a sustainable business? There are institutions that handle this and will grade you. We're going to talk about that at another time. But essentially, they help you grade, and it's for you to say, hey, what's most important to you for being a sustainable business? And then maximizing that and knowing how to take responsibility for that, and then what is the impact that that's going to have on the business and on society and on the environment. Okay, so the next slide is the old school of thought. There's the old school and the new school. And there are a lot of businesses that still follow the quote unquote old school of thought, um, which is essentially the single bottom line, I call it. The single bottom line. And Milton Friedman, who is a Nobel laureate and was the chief economist, once said in the 60s, 70s, said that the social responsibility of business is to increase its profits. The social responsibility of any business is essentially to make money. And that has been the mindset of businesses since, I don't know, the Industrial Revolution, the 1850s, 1860s, whenever that started. Um, and a lot of the reasons that we have today in society and the environment all stem from that mindset that we're here to maximize profit no matter what. Maximize, 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 and that's it. That's our only responsibility as a business, is to make as much money as we possibly can. Well, that's the old school of thought. In the last, I don't know, maybe, well, certainly in the last 15 years, probably more like 30, 40 years, it's really changed to the new school of thought, which is the triple bottom line. We've all heard that word. Some of you know what it means. Um, it essentially, yeah, includes profits, because profits are crucial to have for any business. That's the lifeline of a business's finances. Um, but it also integrates the people component and the planet component. So it's people, planet, and profits is the triple bottom line. And you need to focus on the impact it's going to have on the people, the society, and the planet, the environment, as well as the profit. So there's three bottom lines, not just one bottom line, but three bottom lines. So let's talk about what this means. Now, these following three slides are from the Harvard Business Review on corporate responsibility. So these are pretty well respected definitions. So the people component of the people, planet, profits triple bottom line is the human capital. And so that you have the financial capital, we have the environmental capital, and we have the human capital. So people is fair and beneficial business practices towards labor and the community creates a successful business. And stakeholders are taken into account, not just shareholders. Now, stakeholders might be a new word for some of you. A stakeholder is anybody that has a stake in the outcome of the success of your company. What that looks like is, I don't know, investors, employees, customers, shareholders, vendors, suppliers, all of those guys, your community, that's all part of your stakeholders. And so that's what the people component is. So what is the impact that this has on the people is the human capital component. The planet is the natural capital, and that's employing sustainable environmental practices, benefiting the natural order as much as possible, and not harming or curtailing environmental impact as best as possible. So as you look at your business model, you say, well, how does this positively or negatively impact social or sustainable environmental practices? So we talk more about that, and we're going to have some ways on how you can integrate this into your business, no matter what type of business you might have. And then the profit, and we're going to go through these slides and then we'll talk more about this. Okay, so the profit component is the economic capital, which is also exceedingly important for any successful business. And the bottom line is shared by all commerce. And the lasting economic impact on a business's economic environment and lasting economic impact on a business's economic environment, and balancing accounting with social and environmental impact. So what all that means is essentially that when you integrate the social and the environmental for the economic, that creates the profits of your company. And we're going to start looking at how, when you actually build into your business model environmental and social components, that actually generates even more money for your business than if you didn't have it. We'll talk more about that as we continue. This next slide, consumers demand sustainability, is a very busy slide. It's an older slide too. It's from the late 2000, like 2007, 2008, something like that. And what I want you to look at in this is the top couple of lines here. And that's showing how people, when they were surveyed about, hey, whenever possible, would you buy an environmental product or a non-environmental product? And what this is broken out by industry types of businesses, industry businesses, and what tends to have the highest impact on environmental or customers or consumers that will buy environmental versus non-environmental, if you will, or social. So the top one is paper and packaging products. So hey, if it's environmental, absolutely, I would much prefer to buy that. And the second is disposable products for the home. Okay, fine. Instead of throwing out plastic and styrofoam, what are you doing instead in the home? Fresh meats and vegetables, and so on and so on. So those are the pecking order, and this is maybe 10, 9 years ago. So it's only increased even more now. So even more. So for example, at the very bottom is financial services. Well, there still needs to be a lot done there. Um, but 10 years later, there's even more consumers and target customers that are focusing on environmental, triple bottom line, sustainable businesses in financial services. That's what this slide shows. So some of the advantages of creating sustainable businesses. I've got several slides on this, and I want to go through these with you. Um, One is increased sales. So when you have a sustainable business, your sales tend to increase with everything else being roughly the same. So that means that your pricing is about the same. Um, it tends to be a little less price sensitive. So when you sell a product that's environmentally, so I'm making this up again using the bottle example that I used in class 2. So let's pretend for a moment that this was made out of recycled plastic and it's hiring local communities to put them together and so on. And you start using that in your marketing and your message and saying, hey, I use recycled ingredients and I hire some of the people in my community, blah, blah, blah. Then that it tends to be, the sales tend to increase. And what we mean by that is it tends to be less price sensitive, and solid strategies to position can be desirable. So what that means is that strategies for positioning it can be more attractive to your customer, your consumer. Some examples, past clients and entrepreneurs I've worked with. But there's one. Here's one. She lives here in Brooklyn. She has her business in Brooklyn, and she makes environmental pillows. Um, but they're pillows with the wrapping on them, and then she has sayings and expressions on them like "call your mother" or "made in Brooklyn" or "WTF," and you all know what that means. And she started marketing it, and it's made out of environmental and recycled materials. And she started marketing the fact that she hires from her local community, which is the social component, and she uses environmental resources, which is the environmental component. And she when we started working together, she was working out of her apartment. And when we no longer work together, but when we were working, I helped her get into a large factory. So she moved into a large factory of, I think it was 5,000 square feet, if I remember right. She had, I don't know, 10 or 15 employees working for her. She grew very, very successfully because of the factors that she integrated. Um, Another advantage are new verticals, so new markets that you can, what a new vertical is another market that you can focus your product or services on. So what that means is, um, for environmental products, you can focus on industries or vertical markets that have recycling or all natural or fully biodegradable materials. So you can start focusing on industries that are interested in having that as part of what they purchase. I'll give you a couple of examples in a moment. Social products are fair trade, local communities, retraining people, and artisans and designers tend to have environmental and social solutions. Some examples of new verticals would be, hey, I'm making this bottle out of, socially responsible, in socially responsible ways, And new vertical markets are, hey, I've been selling this to mommies. Hey, I can also sell this to any athletes or people working out at the gym, or those are different vertical markets. So now all of a sudden, hey, I'm interested in getting into Whole Foods or some environmentally or socially focused businesses that wouldn't normally sell this, but because it's made out of what it's made out of, they're now interested. Those tend to be additional vertical markets that you can focus on. Okay, another advantage is market exposure. So I get these kind of questions all the time. But market exposure, what that means is, hey, we can create um, marketing campaigns, ad campaigns to make this really pop. Um, so I have so many examples of this. Let me just talk about these questions on the slide for a second. So a question I get a lot is, hey, sustainability, that's cool and all. Is that a fad now, or is it here to stay? And the answer is yes. It's hot and it's a fad and it's here to stay. Things are only getting more intense, and therefore businesses need to integrate this more into their business models. And media is very hot for sustainable businesses right now. Some examples are, well, geez, this is a few years ago now, but when we had our business, um, we had environmental retail stores. We had environmental retail stores in New York, and we were probably the largest of environmental stores at that time that we had them. We had about 3,000 products, all screened for their environmental impact. And the media loved us. They followed us everywhere. They loved the trends we were doing. We had environmental bridal registries. We had some of the hottest, coolest manufacturers that were coming up with green and environmental and social doodads. We had some of our campaigns were incredible. We had campaigns, and I'm not going to talk for hours about this. I'm going to talk about a couple of things. Um, we had campaigns, ad campaigns for clothing drives, and we had a picture. Picture this, and a photo of a homeless person in the middle of winter, and they were shivering in the snow, and there was a photo of that person, and in big captions it said our company name and who would ever think we believed in global warming, and how we were collecting clothes and jackets for the homeless in the winter. And that business, I mean, we got so much exposure from that. We got the New York Times that picked us up. We had truckloads, huge truckloads of people coming to our stores, dropping off clothing, and they had to walk to the back of the store and see what we had in the store. And we tended to have an incredible sales on those during those campaigns. So that's one of many, 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 many examples of how you can integrate and how the media integrate what you do and leverage the media to bring in even more business because of it. Okay. Um, the next bullet point is small business catches that, well, this is what we hope, is that there's a small business catch, the sustainability bug. And what that means is where other businesses say, "Oh yeah, I'm green too," and we've all seen that. Where there are environmental dry cleaners, for example. There are many examples, but there are some dry cleaners that are green, and then there are some that are not so green. And that's the last bullet point here, which is avoid greenwashing. Greenwashing, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. I'll come back to that, but I skipped a bullet point here. LOHAS is lifestyle of and health and sustainability, I believe, is the acronym. So lifestyle of health and sustainability. Um, and the market size projects that this business is growing, so that there are more and more people that are interested in products and services that are health and sustainability focused. I don't have to tell you guys this, you know this all too well. Let's go back to greenwashing and what greenwashing actually is. So greenwashing is basically saying that you're greener than you really are. So the slide on greenwashing, this is a couple of definitions of it. There are different people and different organizations that think different things about it. But essentially, this is a Wikipedia version of greenwashing. And it's essentially, my words are that you're saying you're greener than you really are. Okay, so you need to avoid that because you can get bit in the ass if you say that, you're an environmental X or a social Y, and you're really not, because once with social media the way it is today, once people figure out that that's a bunch of BS, they're going to come after you, and it could actually tank and kill your business if you're not careful. So greenwashing can really, really hurt you. There's some examples of that, but of companies that got bit in the ass by saying they were green and they really weren't. Um, okay, but we're not going to go into that now. But there's a potential advantage, and this tends to be more an advantage than not an advantage, and that's competition. So your competitive advantage. If you're social or environmental, you can compete against the non-social and environmental businesses like that. So, for example, my brother's company, Ecologic Solutions. EcologicSolutions.com, I believe, is his website, if you want to look it up. He sells environmental cleaning products to B2B model, business to business. And so he sells to corporations, floor cleaners, degreasers, polishing, and all environmental, socially and socially benign. He has a desalinization chemical that is made from salt and water and electricity, and how it can sterilize any environment, and you can drink it because it's just salt and water, versus the toxic chemicals that are about the same price. And this works well in hospitals, it works well in restaurants, it works well in so many industries. He's got about I'm not going to say the numbers here, but he's well into the 7 figures, almost 8 figures right now, his company. And he's doing exceedingly well as of now. He's doing exceedingly well. Some of his clients are some of the biggest corporations in the world, in the country for sure, that are buying his products because they're so sustainable and they're so environmental and so social. Um, so he competes head on with his competition because he's the only one more or less doing this. There are other companies, but they're not as green and they don't do it as well as he does. The efficacy is not as strong, the price points are not as good, and these other corporations don't want to come out with green versions of what they do because then that'll compete negatively against their bread and butter chemicals that they sell. So they have regular chemicals and then green chemicals. If they start making green chemicals, that's going to compete against what's wrong with their regular chemicals if you have a green version of this and so on. So he's been able to compete against these massively large companies. Some of them are, I think, $1, $2, $3 billion a year companies. So he's been doing very well. So that's a good example of how your competitive advantage can kick in by being a sustainable business. Another potential advantage is customer loyalty. So, picking on my brother's company, there's so many. I have some examples on this slide. The Body Shop, Cliff Bar, Stonyfield Farms, they're all, the Body Shop is still around, but they were huge in the, I want to say 90s and 2000s. And all of these guys, they created customer loyalty like you can't imagine. They still do. My brother's company, same thing, or the pillow manufacturer, same thing, or if you have a bowling alley that uses the local community and recycles the bowling materials and so on, or buys recycled materials for their bowling balls and bowling pins, you can create serious customer loyalty because, hey, we hire the local community and we work for everybody in our community. We help out. So that creates loyalty in general, usually. Okay, so moving on, another advantage is more stability. When you have 3 bottom lines, people, planet, and profits, to stand on, instead of just one, which is profits, you tend to be more stable. So people, planet, profits. Let's say one day the people component starts to get a little weak, or the profit component seems to get a little weak, or the planet um, components. You still have the other two legs to stand on, and the loyalty tends to stick around longer. So what that means is, that's such a non-technical way of explaining this, but your loyalty because, hey, I want to work with a company that makes their pillows from, I'm picking on the pillow manufacturing company, makes pillows from environmental resources or hires from the local community. I want to support her. Another really good example is I don't have any products right in front of me right now, but I'm sure I do, but I just don't see it in front of me. Patagonia. Patagonia, they are, as of now, about $600–700 million a year company. They're not public, they're privately held. But why I love them so much and why I will not buy any other product, um, products that they sell from any other company, because of what they do for the environment, what they do for their people, and they charge fair wages. And so they have jackets. If you're not familiar with them, you can look them up. In Patagonia, um, they have sportswear and clothing materials, clothing, outdoor clothing. So they they repurpose, they recycle, they have phenomenal programs for their communities, and they have been growing like crazy. Again, they're in, um, they're all over the world now, but they first started out in Southern California. They have tons of campaigns, always helping environmental and social issues, and that creates serious loyalty towards for their customer base, one of which is me. Um, so, so another advantage is being a more sustainable business. Um, okay, so here are people ask me all the time, hey, how can I get involved? What if my business has nothing to do about environmental components? I make bagels, or I'm a bagel shop, or I'm going to be a bagel shop, or I'm a bowling alley, for example. Well, what can I do if I have nothing to do with environmental issues? Well, these are the top 10 environmental challenges today. You don't have to integrate any of all of these. You can pick and choose any one of these that really speaks to you the most. So, for example, biodiversity, which is number 8 on this slide, is one of my pet peeves. So biodiversity, what is that? Well, biodiversity is where forest land in, let's say, South America, rainforest land is being wiped out, or these days it's Indonesia, sorry, Indonesia. They're being wiped out in alarming rates, just to grow one crop, which tends to be soy. There are exceptions, but basically. So this biodiverse rainforest is being wiped out to grow one crop, which is soy. And soy is used in sugars and for foods and so on. So biodiversity may, what if you have nothing to do with biodiversity as a business? Well, how can you integrate that? That's going to be the challenge of this course, not the challenge, but that's going to be the question you're going to ask yourself. How do I integrate that into my business? You can start doing fundraisers, you can start partnering with some of these biodiversity related businesses, and so on and so on. There are so many ways you can do this. So what I want you to do is pick, if you have nothing to do with environmental, and you just look at these and say, well, gee, my issue is air pollution or water or climate change or whatever, or deforestation, number 10. And how can you integrate that into your business to create a more environmentally robust, solid business model? That's what this slide is for. The next one is, well, that's cool and all for the environment. What about social? I have nothing to do with social businesses. How can I integrate that? Well, here are the top 10 for social challenges. Hunger, education, exploitation, rich versus poor inequality, that is, disease, poverty, and so on and so on. There are 10 here. So you can look at these and say, you know what? Education really speaks to me. Hey, if these guys are educated, they're going to be smarter about how they do things. They're going to live in a more We're going to live in a more sustainable business. I'm making it up. Okay, let's say that that's your thing. Well, how can you integrate education into your business model? That's going to be the second challenge for you. So now you've got environmental and social, and then we're also going to, in this slide, look at the economic components and the financial things. Again, these are kind of overlap the social, but you can integrate this into your business as well. So here are top 10. So I would, if I were you for this class, I would recommend you do at least one from each of these categories. At least one. Uh, so under economic challenges, you have joblessness, geostrategic competition. What that means is that different areas of the world are now competing with each other for the same markets and the same products. So Apple now has competition in China, or Facebook or Google has competition all over the world. Blah blah blah. Nationalism. These are all some of the component. These are the top 10 in here. So the next thing that I want you to focus on is integrating into your business model how you're going to integrate and involve your people. So what this means is educating your customers, explaining to them, hey, this is what I do. So Patagonia, picking on Patagonia again, um, they have um, a tremendous amount of education happening. They've written out books, they have mail order catalogs, they have everything they do. They explain why they do what they do and why it's important and why you should, as a consumer, should care about that. Um, and then the next is how you can also involve your people is selecting suppliers committed to sustainability. What that means is, hey, Patagonia, I'm picking on Patagonia again, or, any of these businesses that I've worked with in the past, they focus on, um, hey, where do we get our zippers from? Where do we get our fabrics from? How are they treated? How are the employees treated? What kind of cottons are used? What kind of materials are used? Are they recyclable? And on and on and on. Again, if you're a product-based company, you may want to look at that. So if you're this company, you may want to look at, well, what kind of materials went into this product? If you're a service-based business, then you focus on, well, how can my service improve the environment? How can my service impact society? If you're a law firm, what kind of things can I focus on? Like law for how, when I'm working with customers, how can I make sure that they're complying with environmental regulations and social regulations? How can I make sure that they are being responsible beyond just legal components and so on? I'm making it up. But there are so many ways you can go about this. Um, then you can help your consumers focusing on leveraging their purchasing power. So, hey, buy from us because we do these things um, for the environment and for society and so on. So that would be leveraging and helping them make those choices. Like Patagonia, you walk down the street today in the colder climates in the United States and you see Patagonia jackets and hats and gloves and shirts and shorts all over the place. And those are people that are leveraging their purchasing power. And they give back to their communities, so you can market how you give back to your community and you donate X percentage of your sales to this, that, or the other thing, or you partnered with an organization that does um, works with blind people or the homelessness or whatever. And then educating and involve your employees is another major component. So you can help your employees by saying, hey, this is why we do this or why we should do this, and this is how we can get involved. Some companies, I think Google has slack time, or I forget what they call it, where they have time off, where I think it's 20% of their day is designed to work on um, uh, creativity. Patagonia definitely has it, where they work on projects that are related to business, but they can also be a little pet project of the employees. Um, And then you can partner with sustainable businesses, like-minded sustainable businesses. And lastly, you can look for socially responsible and green investors. That's a big one. There is a growing movement of investors that only are interested in social and environmental causes. We'll talk more about that in class number 11, I think it is. Okay, so um, integrating triple bottom line, TBL, into your business model. Okay, so the key here is integrating consistency and managing your mistakes. Those are two crucial components. So what that means is um, a system for consistency is making sure that when you do it, you're constantly doing it. Like Patagonia, I keep picking on them. Stonyfield Farms, the yogurt company, they're always making organic yogurts and yogurts with treating their farmers fairly and responsibly here in Vermont. Up in Vermont, I'm not in Vermont. Um, and all these companies, and you will make mistakes because now you have three bottom lines, not just one, but you now have three. So that's going to mathematically, that's going to more than triple the amount of mistakes you're going to make. So managing them and accelerating through them and still working through it is going to be exceedingly helpful. Okay, benefits for your business is it's going to benefit your stakeholders. So stakeholders, again, are anybody that has a stake in the financial or emotional stake in the outcome of your business. So anybody that buys from you, your customers, anybody that works for you, your employees, anybody that supplies you, your vendors, they all have a stake, or people that invest in you. They want to feel good about what they're doing and that, hey, I'm making a difference, I'm making an impact on society, on the environment by working with you, the entrepreneur, you, the student. Um, benefits for your business on environment and society, and the revenues are going to increase. You're going to see, you know, depending on how you do this and how you market it, but how we're going to do this in the course and how we're going to help you do this in course and with your professor in class, you're going to be asking these kind of questions. Hey, how do I integrate this into my business model? You're going to see how this is going to increase your sales dramatically. Again, look at a lot of these examples, and there's a growing movement of green and environmental and socially responsible businesses growing up all over the world now for these reasons. And so what's the impact? This is something else that you're going to need to focus on with your business model. What's the good impact? What's the bad impact? What does that mean? So environmentally and socially, what are the impacts I'm having on my environment and on society by making the decisions I make? Um, and the local or global impacts. Hey, I'm a local bowling alley, but I buy my bowling balls and my bowling pins from a company in, I'm making it up, Mexico or Canada or something. So I have an impact there, or we get our environmental t-shirts and our materials, or if you're a Patagonia, you get your environmental resources and materials from all over the world, and so on and so on. So your impact can be small or can be huge, but it starts with something, and then you leverage that into your message, which we're going to be talking more about in class number 4. And how you integrate all of these things to speak about your business model. Okay, so we just covered a lot. I want to spend some time now going over what we just covered. Excuse me one second. Hi. Okay, I'm back. And I want to take a step back for a moment and look at some of, I'm going to go back to slide number 25, integrating triple bottom line. I'm going to say a couple more things about this because I really do think it's important for you to figure out how you're going to integrate this into your business. As best as you can, how do you envision sustainable business practices working in your company? As best as you can. Make sure you create and incorporate a clear vision for your company, integrating your business commitments in a sustainable way, integrating environmental and social impacts. The key is to integrate a system for consistency and to manage your mistakes. And you will make mistakes. Like I've said before, you're going to make lots of mistakes. You're just going to know. You're just going to know how to accelerate through them and do much better than a triple bottom line. And at the end, you're playing a really big game. And the game that needs to be played, and it's a game that needs to be played far beyond just you. It's for our economy, it's for the planet, and it's for your community. And I'm relying on you guys, all of you, to make this happen. So it's crucial that you come up with solutions to this. So we're here to help you in all of this. We're here to help you succeed because of these reasons, that we need you to develop a massively successful business model for sustainability. So what that means is going to slide number 26, the business success for your business. This is also going to be, these questions are also in your Entrepreneur's Manual number 3, where you have question number 2 is going to be talking about your benefits to your business, your stakeholders, and so on. And then also what I want you to look at is what challenges do you see in building your business this way? I want you to think about that, and in class, in groups, and with the professor, you're going to be getting feedback on what those challenges are. So again, the question is, what challenges do you see with integrating sustainability into your business? This is all part of slide number 26. And then for slide 27, how do a business's practices impact others locally and around the globe? What are examples of good and bad impacts, and from your businesses? I want you to write that down. It's going to be part of your Entrepreneur's Manual, EM number 3, the third question, which is essentially asking what are the good and bad practices of a sustainable business. I'm sorry, what are the good and bad impacts of a sustainable practice business? And you're going to write that down. So again, how do businesses' practices impact others locally and around the globe? What are examples of good and bad impacts, and from around your and from your businesses? In the next question is same slide. Let's conclude this whole class today by sharing some ideas that you have for triple bottom line. I want you to start thinking about it, and in your workbook, your EM3, you're going to be working on question number 4, which is what's next steps you need to take to leverage and make this successful part of your business. So I want you to integrate triple bottom line in question number 4 on your Entrepreneur's Manual number 3, EM3, and what next steps you need to do to integrate even more of it into your business. So I wanted to make sure we covered those things. Let's review what we just covered. Sorry, my slides just changed on me by accident. Okay, so let's review what we just covered. We just covered a lot in a very short period of time. You can spend an entire semester on this, for example. Okay, so sustainable definitions. We defined what sustainability means. What is the old school of thought, which is single bottom line? What is the new school of thought, which is triple bottom line? What those mean? What are some sustainable advantages? What is greenwashing? What are competitive advantages to being a sustainable business or a triple bottom line business? And then we had 3 slides on the top 10 challenges for environmental, social, and economic components. And then how do you integrate triple bottom line into your business? the benefits you'll have for your business, and what's the impact of your business, and what's the impact you're going to have on your communities and so on. We covered a lot today. Okay, and now for the assignments. You're going to list 5 reasons for and how being sustainable would improve your business. So list 5 reasons why to be sustainable and how being sustainable would improve your business model. That's part of your homework. That's in EM number 4. I'm sorry, EM question number 4, I think. I'm not sure which question. It's at the end. It's at the end of your workbook for that module. The second one is list the top 3 sustainable impacts in your business. So, you know what? I'm going to focus on environmental and social. So in environmental, I'm going to focus on clean energy and global warming and biodiversity. And this is how I'm going to do it. Or social, I'm going to focus on poverty, I'm going to focus on education, and blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is. But spell it out and how you're going to do it. Not just what are you going to do, but how are you going to integrate that? Well, how are you going to make that part of your business? And then list 5 ways to improve your impact on the bottom lines. So, hey, that's what I'm going to do, but hey, I would love, and I don't have no idea now, but I would love to also get involved in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You list them out. These are the 5 areas I would also love to figure out how to integrate into my business. And those 5 things would be, you would have 5 total for those 3 components, economic, environmental, and social. 5 total for those 3. For those 3, there we go, right? Number of fingers there. Okay, so, and then lastly, you're going to be playing level 3 of Genesis. Is it sustainable? Level 3, you're going to play it through, and that'll give you some more ideas. And then you're going to come to class, and you're going to have a lot of questions from your professor and from your fellow students on how you're going to integrate sustainability better into your business, and what does that mean, and blah, blah, blah. So, that's it for today and for the video, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with, because Lord knows we need more solutions for anything from climate change to social impact, and I would love to see what you guys come up with. So, and I will see you in class number 4. Thank you.